Philip Crowther, international affiliate reporter for the Associated Press, joins me now from Iowa with analysis of last night's debate. Philip, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Ahead of last night's debate, everyone was curious to see how the tensions between Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders would play out. It doesn't really appear that things are going to de-escalate anytime soon.
No, because the image that we're left with was that lack of a handshake between the two senators, who, by the way, are good friends in the U.S. Senate. It was at the end of that debate, when all of the candidates tend to come together on stage, the cameras were still on. Bernie Sanders tried a handshake with Elizabeth Warren. She appeared to refuse. That led to a discussion on stage, and we still don't know what the content of that discussion was. Now, that came after not necessarily a testy exchange on stage, but a very significant one, because this debate came after that revelation from CNN in their report that Bernie Sanders had told Elizabeth Warren in a private meeting in 2018 that he believed that a woman couldn't win in the year 2020. Now, he says he never said that. He also said that again on stage, that discussion had happened, but he never said a woman couldn't win in 2020. Elizabeth Warren had an emphatic response, saying that one should only have a look at the stage, where there were 4 men who had lost 10 elections together, she said, and 2 women, her and Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, her fellow senator, who had not lost a single election in the last 30 years. But really, what we're left with is that lack of a friendship, almost, it seems, between those 2 senators who've been pretty close to each other in the U.S. Senate over the last few years. We're not seeing that dispute between the 2 senators getting any better, really, over the last few days.
Well, Philip, last night, foreign policy was a big focus as well. How do you think the candidates did in presenting their plans? And in your opinion, did anyone stand out?
Not necessarily. Essentially, what this was an all-out effort against Donald Trump, as these debates tend to be the case. Interestingly enough, though, of course, it did start with a foreign policy question from the moderators. That's not a coincidence, of course. This was the first Democratic debate, the 7th out of a total of 12 that came after the killing of Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad by the U.S. military and the Iranian response in Iraq thereafter. Now, none of these candidates on stage necessarily opposed the killing of the top Iranian general. They do, though, oppose how the president dealt with things, and essentially their message was, you need a stable hand in the White House, and that, of course, is the main message from the favorite, Joe Biden, the former vice president. He says he's ready to go, and he's somebody with foreign policy experience who should be let into the White House, or rather back into the White House, as quickly as possible. Speaking of foreign policy, in a sense, these were, by the way, all candidates who wanted the discussion to turn towards climate change as much as possible. That is noticeable, of course. These are 6 candidates who are more than happy to talk about climate change, and thereby want to make a very clear contrast to the current president, of course.
Well, Philip, quickly, the Iowa caucuses are a little over 2 weeks away. What do you think the candidates need to do in the days ahead?
Well, the debate was a little bit of a help, and then they just need to meet as many voters as they possibly can, and that's what they're doing. 19 days to go before the Iowa caucuses, and we don't see a clear favorite here. There are 4, essentially, who could win here. Former Vice President Joe Biden is, of course, one of them. Senators Warren and Sanders, the others. And then Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor of South Bend in Indiana, could also win here in Iowa. 19 days to go now until we see who can win this very first contest in a very long election season.
All right, Philip Crowther, thank you. Philip Crowther, international affiliate reporter for the Associated Press. Thanks again for your insight.
Thank you.